join. You can turn on your camera, you can leave it off. It's up to you. Whatever makes you feel more comfortable. Um, we're going to talk about a lot today, so we just want to give people a few more minutes. Sureya, as people join, are they going into the waiting room now, or are they going directly into the presentation
They're going to the waiting room, but I'm just admitting everyone
as they come?
whenever I see them.
Okay. Yeah, we'll wait like maybe 5 minutes. Should have some
Okay.
music playing or something.
I always should have.
No one wants to hear my old man music. I don't
I
uh
mean, you'd be surprised.
let me I'm gonna change my title or whatever. Let's see. Rename. Ramón Vargas. He, him. Assistant director. Hello. Good to see you again. Assistant director of admissions.
Hi, guys. Thank you guys for joining us. I don't know where you guys are coming from, if it's California or the other side of the country, but we're happy to have you guys here.
Yeah. We're going to be doing a lot of these. We're going to be doing these regularly. So y'all are here for the first one of the year. I think it's the first one of the year, right, Sureya?
Yes, first one of the year. No, actually, that's not true. We did one back in May, but that feels like a different year.
Okay. Well, welcome to my studio, my home studio. You can see this is an unofficial studio tour. It's just behind me. You can see what it looks like. It's always a mess. I'm always working on all kinds of stuff. I actually keep my laptop where I do like my digital drawing and painting on my tablet. So that side is for traditional media. This side is for digital media. And I like having everything all in the same space because it's all coming from the same like sort of creative, you know, vibe. So
We
um
have someone from Nigeria here. Thank
wow,
you for joining us.
that's
That's
really
wild.
cool. Yeah.
That's cool.
Um so far my digital work is just on my iPad. I have a 12-inch iPad Pro. But I'm thinking about getting a Cintiq or something for my home studio. Sureya, do you have a Cintiq? You
Yeah.
do? Oh,
Mhm.
I'm jealous.
But you can't take it around like an iPad. So, I mean,
Yeah, but
I
when
use
I'm at
my iPad.
home on my iPad, I'm like craving a bigger screen, you know?
Yeah, I feel that. I
Can
understand
you-
that. I use my iPad more though.
Okay. So someone just ordered a new tablet. What is it? Huion tablets? All right, I'm gonna look that up. See,
They're
you
good.
when you talk to other artists, you get good art info. I'm gonna write that down. Can you hear the music I'm playing in the background?
No.
Okay, I didn't want it to be too loud. Are we allowed to speak with voice? That's a good question, Sureya.
You can. You can if you
Okay.
want to.
And for those of you that are turning on your cameras, hello everybody. Just want to let you know we are recording this session. Sureya, did you start recording it?
I did.
Okay, so because we're gonna we want to make this available to everyone going forward, you know, people that weren't able to make it tonight. So we're gonna post this or we're gonna share the link so that people can see it. So just to give you a heads up, but it's mostly gonna be my big dumb face talking about talking about portfolio examples and how to get a good score and how to format your portfolio and that kind of thing. All right, we'll give it one more minute and then we'll get started. Um,
Okay.
I'll start sharing my screen and I'll start diving into the examples that we have prepared for y'all. It would be, what do you think, Sureya? Like, it would be nice to know if we're talking to a bunch of animators tonight. Are we talking to a bunch of game artists? Are we talking to a bunch of entertainment designers? Um,
Yes.
what would be the best way to do that? Maybe they can put it in their name or maybe they can just chime in on the chat. What do you think, Sureya?
It might be better, honestly, in their name. And the reason why I say that is because chat's going to go wild and it's going to be hard to keep up with.
Yeah, that's true.
So if you guys are okay with that, thank you guys.
And we'll answer questions for every major. So I'm prepared. My cat wants to jump up on my lap. Come on.
Entertainment design for games. Josephine, we have some stuff to talk about with you for games.
You're gonna jump up on my lap. Do it now instead of in the middle of the presentation. He's waiting for me to be distracted and then he's gonna jump up. You coming?
Okay, so far what I'm seeing is graphic design, entertainment design, illustration, and game art. Oh, animation.
Okay.
Okay, so everything besides drawing and painting is what I'm seeing.
Soraya's saying that because she graduated from drawing and painting. I graduated from LCAD's illustration program.
Yes, cat. Yes, the cats are always. We need cats.
This is the guy that's gonna be the most needy. Uh, my other cat is an introvert. This guy's an extrovert. All right. Should we get started soon? Oh, I still hear people jumping in, but let's get started soon.
I'll just admit them as they come in.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm gonna switch my view to speaker. And I'm going to wait, that didn't really work. Gallery. Can I pin my own? Maybe, oh, you know what? There, I did that. All right. Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining our virtual portfolio session. We're gonna do our best to make this as efficient and helpful as possible. If you have been working with your LCAD counselor at all to this point, you know that we don't beat around the bush. We don't mess around. We get right to showing you how to improve your work and how to make your portfolio better. We all want you to have good portfolios. We all want you to be accepted to LCAD if you're applying to LCAD. And so that's really the main part of our job, is to not only spread the word about LCAD, but to help students with their applications, especially their portfolios. All of our counselors are LCAD grads currently. So, and we're all in various stages of our career. I'm going to talk about, kind of my path to being a professional artist and what I've done, what I'm doing now. But Sureya, do you want to take a moment to introduce yourself and just kind of talk about, your history with LCAD?
Sure. So, hi guys, I'm Sureya Davis. I am also an LCAT alum. I graduated in 2018, so about 6 years now. That feels wild to say. And then after I graduated, I taught for 2 years, and then at LCAD, and then now I'm doing admissions counseling. But I'm a painter through and through. I do a lot of illustration as well. So, and I'm really interested in concept. So, yeah, that's my
Sureya,
history with LCAD.
can you
Yeah.
talk about your application process to LCAD or your portfolio? How did it go? Did you come out of high school, or did you transfer from community college?
No, so I transferred from community college, but I graduated very early. So I went to community college, did maybe a year and a half there. And then I worked with my admissions counselor, believe it or not, for like a year before I even graduated because I wanted to maximize my scholarship. So Ray's going to talk more about that and he's going to talk about different portfolios and so on. So I was very much the student who was like, wait, I want to go to art school. No one in my family does art besides me. I have a lot of musicians, but not visual artists. So I didn't know what I was doing. So what I did was talk with my admissions counselor. She coached me on a lot of things and got that into my portfolio. And then, yeah, I went to LCAT and it was a great experience. So yeah, that's a background on myself.
So that's
What
great.
about you, Ray?
It sounds like you took full advantage of the admissions process with your counselor at LCAD. You said you
Mhm.
worked in your portfolio for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the opposite. I didn't know. I did not take advantage of my portfolio or admissions process. I did not lean on my counselor for help like I should have. I didn't know what I was doing. First gen college student in my family, plus no artists in my family. So I really was starting from scratch. I think I barely got accepted to LCAD because I didn't know how to make a portfolio or what to put into it. I came right out of high school, and I was very green. So it's kind of ironic that we do this job now, that I'm doing this job now in this position, because I really could have used someone like me when I was, when I was applying to LCAD. I did get in, and I came here because I wanted to be a comic book artist. But one thing that art school often does for young artists is it broadens your horizons, and it really shows you the potential of a creative career and all the different options you have in terms of like making money, getting jobs, working with clients, that sort of thing. Um, so I learned a lot, and I realized beyond comic books, there was so much art that I wanted to make and get paid to make. I was really into painting. I was really into storyboarding. I was really into advertising illustration and editorial illustration. By my junior year at LCAD, I was working as an advertising illustrator. And after I graduated from LCAD, I worked for about 15 years as a commercial illustrator and designer. I worked for a bunch of different clients and companies, big and small. And I also worked in comics, but I did all kinds of stuff. I did tattoo design, I did apparel and merch design, I did storyboarding, I did concept art, I did character design. I was all over the place. Children's book, I even did some children's book illustration gigs. So eventually I started to do more and more painting. And that was when I decided to switch to be a fine artist and not a commercial illustrator. And that's when I came back to LCAD to work in admissions. I also got my MFA in painting at LCAD. So clearly, I believe in the school. I think it's a great opportunity for artists. Now, doesn't mean it's the right school for everyone or it's the best school for everyone, because it does depend on what you're looking for, what kind of experience you're looking for, what kind of instruction you're looking for. But for me and what I wanted to get out of art school, it was perfect for my expectations. So we're gonna get into portfolios and working on portfolios, improving your portfolios, what they should look like, what we're looking for. If you have questions about the stuff I'm talking about, throw them in the chat. Sureya is here to moderate, and we're just gonna answer those questions as we go. Sureya, if something pops up that I should be talking about, obviously, just feel free to interrupt me and say, hey, we got a question or whatever. Okay, because
Awesome.
I will talk. I will just keep talking.
What I
And
will say, Ray, is that we do have all majors. So across the board, we're going to touch on all of them.
okay, great. Well, kudos to everyone for being here, because, this is a time of year where it's getting dark super early, especially if you're on the West Coast. That's what we're dealing with right now on the West Coast. Um, it's getting a little colder. Um, we all just want to, I think, hibernate. We're all under it. If you're still in high school or if you're in college right now, you have so many things weighing down on you. The semester's coming to an end soon. You're working on projects. You're probably juggling multiple, priorities. So really, we understand how hard you all work. We understand, how much energy it takes to make your dreams happen and to like work on these things. So we really do appreciate the students that take a step forward, take it upon themselves to seek out help, because ultimately it is going to benefit you in the long run. But it can be a challenge. Trust me. There are nights where I do not want to be, doing this kind of work. I just want to chill at home, like these guys get to chill all the time. All right, all right. The first step, right? So hopefully everyone here has opened their application for LCAD. If not, you should know that it is free to open an application at LCAD, and there is no deadline. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen so that I can show you. This is our website. Okay, when you go to our website, this is the first thing you see. This is like scrolling imagery like most websites have nowadays. But immediately at the top, you see apply. And then if you scroll down, the first thing you see is how to apply. It is free. It is all on our website. The reason it's hosted on our website completely is so that we can offer it to you for free. Okay. If we used some of the third-party software or platform, then we would have to charge everyone to apply to the school. And we don't want to do that. Okay. So if you haven't already, start your application, because it is a long process. We give you time to work on your portfolio, and we do divert most of our attention and resources to students that have at least opened an application, because that way we know that you know, we're putting our energy towards the people that are more serious about getting help and about, you know, their interest in the school. Okay, so once you go here and you start your application, definitely go to the admissions tab. There's a lot of helpful information here. Sometimes when I'm answering a lot of questions for students, I can tell that they have not taken the time to look at our website, because a lot of the information that I'm giving them is like right here at their fingertips anytime they want to look it up. Again, how to apply, application dates, transfer students. First year students are students that are coming straight out of high school directly to LCAD. Transfer students are any students that are going to a community college or taking any college level classes at any other school before they're coming to LCAD. So that's the difference, okay? I was a first year because I went straight from high school to LCAD. Sureya was a transfer student. You were coming out of high school, but you did have transfer credits, right, Sureya?
I mean, at community college.
Came out of community college. Okay.
Right.
So I'm scrolling down here. Undergraduate is your bachelor's degree. Okay. Some students sometimes they get questions, you know. I like I said before, I was a first gen college student. I didn't have anyone in my family, in my immediate family, that had gone to college. So I didn't understand, you know, kind of how degrees worked. Sometimes students will say, well, isn't a graduate degree better? Well, it comes after your undergraduate degree, right? So you need a bachelor's degree in order to apply and get into a graduate program. So undergrad, if you're coming out of high school or if this is your first degree, you're transferring for a bachelor's, that would be the undergraduate program. And if you go down here to portfolio development and portfolio information, that is the tab that we refer to students to the most. Portfolio information is where you're going to find the guidelines for every major. So every single major has its own individual guidelines. If you're making a portfolio for LCAD, try to make it as specific to your major as possible. That's going to increase your chances of getting a higher score and a better scholarship. Okay. That's number one. That's the most important thing. And I have these portfolio guidelines open here. For those of you that have our view book, you'll recognize some of these images. This is the PDF version of our view book that I have open here just for reference, because I may be jumping to some of these sections to reference some of the artwork that, you know, we've put into the view book for students, for people to look at. But besides the view book in this window, I also have open all of our portfolio guidelines. Okay, so you can see for animation, for drawing and painting, for entertainment design, for experimental animation, for game art, for graphic design and digital media, and for illustration. Those are the 7 majors at LCAD. And most of these majors also have tracks of emphasis. So for instance, if you're interested in graphic design and digital media, but you also love to draw or you're interested in illustration, we have an illustration track of emphasis in graphic design. A lot of these majors have tracks of emphasis, but also any of these majors are available as minors. Okay, so if you want to major in game art and minor in animation, that is something that you can do at LCAD. Important note, your minor has no impact on your application whatsoever. So when you're making your portfolio, you only have to focus on your major, okay? You don't have to worry about whatever minor you're thinking about taking on as well, okay? So in these portfolio guidelines, it's the best, quickest way to get some helpful information about how to format your portfolio and about what content we're looking for in your portfolio, because we have provided some examples based off of previous LCAT student work, and we give lots of definitions and descriptions, okay? Formatting, extra submissions, and the kind of images that we're looking for. One thing you'll notice right away, and I can go to all of the portfolio guidelines to show you, most of the time we want to see, like, if this is one page, I think I can do this. If this is one page in your portfolio, look at how much artwork is on that one page, right? And that's usually the case. If you are a painter and you have a big, impressive painting that you're very proud of, then I may suggest making, you know, giving that painting its own page in your portfolio. If you're a concept artist and you have a big, beautiful digital, you know, environment painting that you've made and you want to highlight that in your portfolio, sure, give it its own page. But for the most part, we're gonna want to see lots of art per page, okay? And as I scroll through these portfolio guidelines, you're going to see what I'm talking about. You can see like this is one page and there's a lot going on. This figure drawing, this is one page in your portfolio. Look at all the figures that are on that one page. So that's definitely something that we look for. I don't know why I just scrolled out so far. Again, life drawings, look at how many life drawings are on this one page. Okay, so that's probably the most common misconception that I see from students is I'm looking at their portfolio and they have one figure drawn, and it may be a good drawing, but I have to explain like that's not enough. Like you want to put minimum 5 or 6 figures on a page. We would love to see more than that. Okay, so that often means, especially for high school seniors, that you may not have enough work to really pack each page with a lot of stuff. So draw every day. Be in the habit of just drawing and sketching every day. It doesn't have to be a big, impressive, finished piece. It can just be your drawings, your sketches of your characters or whatnot. My
Ray,
cat.
can I interrupt you for a second? There's a
Yeah.
student asking the difference between experimental and traditional. I would say in this meeting, like for portfolio guidelines, they're going to look very similar. So
Yeah.
if you want to jump on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking about our animation majors or just art in general, digital versus traditional?
Good question. Emily, do you mean are the majors themselves or the portfolio guidelines? I'll wait till we get an answer here. They
Okay,
might
no
just write it in
problem.
chat. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll let you know.
We do have 2 different animation programs. And the thing about LCAD, and you'll hear us talk about this over and over again, the more specific, the better. So we do start with a strong foundation. We don't start with the specifics, okay? You start with, just like you're building a house, you start with a strong foundation, and the stronger your foundation, the higher you can build, right? And so we believe that about your art skills, your abilities, and your specific tools that you're learning for your industry. So every major is focused on a specific industry that hires art professional artists, and we want you to be one of those professionals when you graduate from LCAD. So we get pretty specific by the end of the program. As you near graduation, your classes and your skills will get more and more specific. Okay, I think one of the major challenges, not to say that you cannot be a self-taught artist, you absolutely can. There's lots of different ways to be a successful professional artist. However, one of the challenges of being self-taught is knowing what specific skills to even learn. And then, of course, it's the networking, right? Networking is a huge part of being a successful professional artist, industry professional. So with animation, we have an animation program and an experimental animation program. And that is because these are 2 different approaches to making animation. Most schools nowadays are teaching this skill set. The skill set that's covered in our experimental animation is sometimes referred to as limited animation. This approach to animation dominates the animation industry today. This is why most schools teach this. We teach it as well. Most schools just call this their animation program. Of course, we don't, because we have a different animation program. We call this experimental animation. Our animation program is teaching what's called full animation. It can be up to 24 frames per second. A lot of it tends to be hand drawn, whether it's traditional pencil or digital. A lot of it is hand drawn, and it's just a longer animation process, usually reserved for feature film animation. Okay, but Sureya is correct. In terms of what we're looking for in your portfolio, it's going to be very similar for both majors. I would say this: if your tastes for animation lean more towards the sort of like I don't know how to put this, like wholesome, like friendly kind of traditional like Disney type of character drawings, then that would probably lean more towards animation. If your tastes are more towards like the more modern, maybe like sharper silhouettes and designs of like television animation, like I'm thinking like Cartoon Network, I'm thinking like those kinds of shows, then that is probably more suited to our experimental animation program. But that's kind of a generalization. Talk to your counselor about what you're looking for from your animation training, and that's probably the best way to find the best which animation program is going to be the best fit for you. So the portfolio guidelines, I cannot stress enough. It's a great resource. If you don't want to talk to anyone, if you don't, if you're just under it and you're like, I only work on my portfolio at like 1 in the morning, then you can just go straight to the website and go to the guidelines and you're going to get a ton of good info. We spend a lot of time, we write these guidelines ourselves. Okay. Like the admissions team does a lot to help students, and we create these guidelines ourselves, even down to picking the artwork. Some of this artwork in here, I think in the illustration pages, some of it is my student artwork from when I was a student at LCAD. Like this is one of my illustration assignments here. So this is pretty old, but it's indicative of like the creative problem solving process that illustrators often go through. So yes, the portfolio guidelines. Okay, that's super important. That's usually the first thing that we refer our students to. After that, if we get a student that says, hey, I looked at the guidelines, is there any more help that I can get from y'all? We will usually send out an email that sort of outlines in a little bit more detail what we're looking for from your portfolio for your major. Crucial thing that I just mentioned real quick, right? I don't want to gloss over this. If you reach out to us and say, hey, I looked at the guidelines, I need more help, you will get more help. Okay. If you do not reach out to us, we cannot provide more help for you. Right. So I think it's a small but important thing. Reach out to us. Just shoot me a text or an email. I mean, you can try giving me a phone call, but probably better text or email. Let us know that you need some more help, and we have lots of different ways to provide more help. For example, these emails that we send out, they're email templates. We have one for every major. It's more examples and more definitions and descriptions of what we're looking for. You'll note, and this is not just for animation, this is for almost every major, we are perfectly happy to accept traditional work. So do not feel that you need any to pay for any software. Okay, I know Clip Studio I think is free now right now, but you don't have to download any of the latest brush sets or anything like that to make a portfolio that will help get you into LCAD. You can literally just pick up a pencil if that's what's most accessible to you, or however you feel you make your best work. Okay. I will note that what you think is your best work and what your LCAD counselor thinks is your best work can often be two different things. And so something that I think is important in terms of mindset is that when you're making a portfolio to get accepted to LCAD, remember that you are working towards LCAD's expectations, right? Our admissions team has expectations, has things that we're looking for. I'm not saying that's the best art in the world. I'm not saying it's, the right way to do graphic design or to do game art. I'm saying this is what we're looking for. When you're applying to a school, it's a really good idea to work to their expectations and standards if you want to do well with their evaluation process, right? I can make a painting for a client according to their expectations. But if I make that painting to someone else's expectations and I'm giving it to this client, they may not be happy with it. I may have to do some things over or change it, right? So every art school out there is going to have different expectations. Sometimes there's slight differences, sometimes they're huge differences. So go to the school in question, ask them what their expectations are. Not every school is going to be as transparent and as direct as we are, but that's one of the things that LCAT is known for. We're going to tell you in the most straightforward way possible what we'd like to see from you. Okay. So again, these are the things that we're expecting from your portfolios based on your major. And I'm going to show you more examples. Matter of fact, let's go into
Wait,
our
Ray,
yes.
I have a question for you. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I have a student, Megan's asking, should the drawing and painting major portfolio consist of more realistic pieces or basically everything and anything? If you can answer that
Um,
question.
That's a great question, and that does speak to these standards, right? Every school has different standards, has different expectations. One thing you should know about LCAD's drawing and painting program, and you can do this for any of our majors. Literally, you can click on any of our majors. Let's click on drawing and painting. And in this section on our website, you can scroll down, you can read about what we do, or you can just see recent graduates' work. You can keep scrolling and you can see more student work. This will give you a great sample of what kind of art is coming out of our program. If there's a type of art that you want to make and you don't see it represented in these samples, in these examples, then we might not be the best fit, right? And I would say don't assume that, talk to your counselor. Here we're looking at recent grad work. Okay, so this is our former chair, Hope Rayleigh. She's now working in our administrative offices, and Joseph Todorovich is our new chair. But this is a website for recent grads. So she was the chair when these graduates completed their program at LCAD. Here you can see more recent work. So this is a great way to get a feel for what the program is going to be focusing on and whether or not these are things and skills that you want to learn. Obviously, by the time you get to your senior year, you're going to have the most freedom to develop your own unique voice and to create the work that you want to make. But at LCAD, that is something that you earn, and you earn that by you know, following the direction of your teachers, building a strong foundation, building like compound skills, like building your skills on top of each other, on top of themselves as you go. And then your senior year, you really get to make the body of work that you want to make. So I think this is pretty indicative here to answer the question of what kind of art you're going to be making at LCAD, right? It can be a broad range, but overall, for the most part, we are teaching representational drawing and painting, right? So that means, it can mean realism. There's different levels of realism. You can get more abstract, you can get, more impressionistic. You can, in terms of your style, that can change. But for the most part, we are making representational drawings and paintings. Okay. So that should answer your question in regards to like the portfolio guidelines, right? We can go back to portfolio information for drawing and painting, and we'll tell you, we want to see, we want to see your process. We want to see figure drawing and figure painting. We want to see observational work. Nowhere in here will you see abstract art. Nowhere in here will you see drip paintings. You will not see installation work. You will not see, maybe experimental found object. This is not a postmodern approach, although obviously we're making art in the postmodern world. So that is going to be an influence in your work. But for the most part, this is the type of work, the type of skill set that you're going to be building at LCAD. And we really believe strongly in this approach because the better your skills, the more disciplined you are in acquiring these skills, the more options you have in terms of the kind of work that you want to make. Some of these students decide after earning these skills, they do want to make abstract work, but now they have such a strong foundation that they can make whatever kind of work they want to make. And I think most artists that I know, that's ultimately what we want, right? Like as an artist, you want to be able to envision something and then have the skills and the tools and the capabilities to make that vision a reality. So we believe strongly in teaching students those skills, but they're not easy to acquire. They take time. It's definitely not the instant gratification approach to build these skills. It takes a special person to really devote the time and the effort that it takes to build these skills. So for
Marley,
training, go ahead.
sorry, Ray. I think Marley has a question. Was your hand up, Marley? Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that, Ray. If we
No
can let
worries.
Marley ask this question. If you want to unmute yourself, Marley, you're more than welcome to ask, or if you want to put it in chat, you can as well.
Uh, Hi.
Oh,
Um, yeah, my question was when it comes to submitting your portfolio, does it have to be in like that kind of website format, or could it just be like a folder on a drive or something like that? Because
So that's a good question. You want to finish? Did you have something else to add?
oh no, it's okay. Yeah.
Okay, so ideally for when you finished your portfolio and you have all your images or your pages, right? Each page should be saved as a separate JPEG. Okay, so you don't have to build a website. You don't have to go to Google Slides or PowerPoint and put anything together like that. Just save each page as its own JPEG and then name them accordingly. Okay, so you can see when you go to portfolio information and you go to formatting your portfolio, JPEG files are preferred. Okay, now as far as this limitation, our technology is growing every single year. So I don't know that this is actually a strong limit. It's more of a suggestion. If you have any issues with size limits when it comes to your portfolio images, contact your counselor. I am always helping students with that stuff. We are all addressing those problems that students are having. Once you have your folder of JPEGs, then in your application on our website, you will actually be prompted once you sign in and you fill out the your contact info and all that. You will be prompted eventually to upload your images, and then you can upload your JPEGs one by one. Okay. I can't stress enough. If you have any issues with that, let us know, because technology is fallible. Sometimes websites are they have a bug or whatnot. Sometimes the images, for whatever reason, the images won't upload. Just let us know, because sometimes you can also just provide that folder for us, usually through Google Drive. I'll download it and then I'll attach it to your application myself. Okay, but we want you to give it a shot first, because that's the way it should be done. We're all just people here to help you. So, like, never feel that, you're at a dead end or there's no solutions. Literally just reach out to your counselor. We can usually solve that problem for you. Okay. So JPEGs. Do not build a website. Definitely don't do that. Don't put together slides or a slideshow or anything like that. Separate JPEGs, and then from there, either you can upload it or we'll upload it for you. Okay.
I have more questions for you, Ray.
Go
Emily, I'm
for
going to
it.
let you go. So, Emily, if you fixed your mic, you can go ahead. Amber, you're going to be next because I know you asked a graphic design specific question a while ago. So,
Cool.
give us a moment.
Okay, no
Go ahead.
worries.
Okay, so my question is, the difference between the animation and the experimental animation, you said that like Disney, it's like more Disney. I really like traditional like frame by frame animation, but do you focus like really heavily on rigs in the in the experimental animation? Because I'm not like the biggest fan of them, and I'm a lot more like drawn to stuff like Over the Garden Wall, which don't have rigs, as well as just regular frame by frame cartoon animation.
Yes, that's a great question, actually. So, there's a lot to say about that. Basically, remember that both animation programs will teach both 2D and 3D animation, and both animation programs encompass both digital and traditional mediums. Okay. So the main difference is in the frame rate, okay, and in the focus of your story. So, for example, hopefully this answers your question. In our animation program, you are working sometimes up to 24 frames per second. That is a lot of frames per second. That is a lot. For a 10-second clip, you're looking at 240, almost 250 drawings sometimes, okay? And those can be hand-drawn, whether, with pencil or digital or some other kind of medium, right? That's a lot. And the reason why it's so many frames per second is because that creates a more fluid animated movement. And that allows those animators to really dig into the nuances of a character's acting performance. So if we go to our animation page, you can see what I'm talking about. You can see some pretty fluid, I don't know if there's any, let me see. There might be some actual, yeah. This type of animation focuses on the facial expressions and the body language of the characters in order to tell the story. Okay, so it's very dramatic, it's very exaggerated. You need more frames per second in order to put all that information in. A lot of times this type of animation, you don't even need the sound to tell what's going on emotionally. Look at the acting performance that this character is giving, right? And it can be 2D or 3D. In our animation program, you're learning that you're applying the same principles to whatever platform or medium you're working in as an animator, okay? That is full animation. That is 24 frames per second animation, okay? With our experimental animation program, that is usually called limited animation because it's not 24 frames per second. It's limited usually to 12 frames or less. And the reason why it's 12 frames or less is because they're going for a faster production time so that they can make the work more quickly, right? And so it's not about the most fluid animation, which, by the way, most animation that you watch today is not 24 frames per second. It doesn't need to be fluid to tell your story, okay? This is just the approach that some animators, especially for feature films, prefer, right? Into the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, any Pixar film, these are 24 frames per second, okay? Most of the stuff on TV is 12 frames per second or less. And so that's the difference, but both are using either 2D or 3D. You are, I think, spending more time focusing on building rigs in experimental animation. But if you can see from the recent grad work, it's called experimental because you can experiment and you can, combine different mediums. And, for instance, this student is hand sculpting.
Oh my god, I love them. I've seen their animations. I've literally made a fan art for them. Dude, don't even start. I love Toast Crunch.
Okay, cool.
No
So this is one of our
that's
students.
awesome.
This is one of our rising stars. So they sculpted these characters, right, by hand, and then they built these sets. So it's all stop motion, but then the facial expressions are all drawn digitally after
Yeah,
the stop motion has been filmed. So
that's
this is the strength of experimental animation, is that you can combine different mediums. You're not spending so much time frame per frame because it's not as many frames, and it enables you to finish your story faster. If you're more focused on telling a complete story, then I would say go into experimental animation. If you're more about making an impactful scene, then go into animation. Okay, like Finding Nemo is one of my favorite movies ever. I love the behind the scenes features on Finding Nemo where you have that one animator just literally working on the eyebrows of Nemo in one scene, trying to get the emotion just right. That's pretty indicative of what, an animator working 24 frames per second is going to do, but not for experimental animation. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. It sounds like you'd be more interested in the approach to animation, but you can still make modern, quirky, work in our animation program. Okay.
Two more questions for you, Ray.
Yeah.
We have a graphic design specific question. So
Awesome.
it says, what's the difference between graphic design with an emphasis in illustration versus graphic design with a minor in illustration?
That's a great question. So our graphic design program is any program really, but our graphic design program, if you are taking an emphasis, well, let's forget the emphasis and let's forget the minor for now. Let's just say you're a graphic design student, or you're an animation student, or you're a painting student, okay? To be a full-time student at LCAD or most colleges, you're gonna need to take 12 units or more per semester. Okay, and so 12 units is usually 4 classes because each class is 3 units. So we're doing a little bit of math right now. Okay, so minimum 4 classes to be a full-time student in college. If you dip below that, then you're a part-time student And that can and will impact your scholarships and your financial aid, okay? So most of the time, students want to remain full-time so they get full access to their financial aid and their scholarships and stuff. So minimum 4 classes, okay? But if you want to graduate on time, in 4 years, then you should be taking 5 or 6 classes per semester. That's 15 or 18 units, okay? That's a lot of work. That's a heavy workload. I cannot stress enough. Sureya knows from experience, 5 or 6 classes per semester, that's a major undertaking.
That actually kind of segues into a question about a double major. I've only seen that done once, and it took them 6 years. So I do not recommend double majoring.
6 years is amazing.
I know.
I would not have guessed that it would be that short. I would imagine minimum 7 years. But wow, 6 years is pretty crazy. So that's just to be a full-time college student with one major. You're going to be taking 5 or 6 classes per semester, okay? Now, let's say that you have a major with an emphasis, graphic design, emphasis in illustration. You're not going to be taking every graphic design class. And you know what? That's okay. You know, a lot of students don't have interest in every single thing in the major. So instead of taking the third level of some class, you'll skip that and you'll take an illustration class instead. So now you're introducing some illustration classes and swapping them out for some graphic design classes, okay? That means that you're taking an emphasis in illustration. You're a graphic design student, but your emphasis is in illustration. So it's still the same amount of classes, you're just swapping them out, okay? That's an emphasis. A minor is more classes. A minor means you're taking all the graphic design classes, and on top of that, you're adding illustration classes on top of that. So a minor is, that's an even bigger commitment. Obviously it can be done, it is done by our students on a regular basis, but it is a big commitment. So our advice to students is, hey, if you're thinking about taking a minor, just spend your freshman year just with your major. Give yourself a year to acclimate to the workload. Once you know more or less what to expect, you can always add that minor your sophomore year. You're still going to graduate in time. You still have time to take all the classes you need to take, but it is a heavier workload. So just keep that in mind, okay? An emphasis swaps out classes. A minor adds classes. So that's the major difference.
Sorry, I don't know how to raise my hand. Can I, sorry, can I add something?
Yeah.
So my question wasn't more what's the difference between an emphasis and a minor? It was more, is there a difference between the emphasis classes for that particular major in illustration versus just having an illustration minor, like those sorts of courses? Because it seemed like there was a difference, but I don't know, I couldn't quite grasp my head around what that would really look like in practice.
I hear what you're saying. So it depends on the class. There are sometimes differences. For example, okay, as an illustration student, at some point, I'm going to have to learn typography, right? Now, the illustration major has typography for illustrators. So if I wanted to, I could take that typography for illustrators class, or I could take the typography class in the graphic design program. But that is more suited to graphic design students and to the skills that they have built up to that point, right? I think it would be a bigger challenge for an illustrator to take the graphic design typography class, because the illustration typography class is designed for illustrators to take. So that's an example. Not every class follows that example, but sometimes we'll have classes, similar topics being covered in 2 different majors in slightly different ways, suited for those students in each respective major. And sometimes it'll just be one class and students from different majors are taking that class. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that pretty much answers it for me.
Okay, cool. I would say the bigger challenge would be, if you're interested in building the most skill, the bigger challenge would be taking the class in the other major.
Okay.
I have another question for you related to illustration. So It says for majors such as illustration, is it preferred to show a variety of different styles or a consistent style in the portfolio?
Illustration, more than any other major, allows for the most diversity in your portfolio. And that makes sense because illustration is our jack of all trades major. Illustration covers the broadest skill set, the broadest, mediums and styles or whatnot. Okay. So yes, it makes sense then that in your portfolio, you can and should show off different styles. You don't have to. Remember, these are all guidelines. We do not have requirements. So it's up to you. What do you feel, or what does your counselor feel shows off your skills the best? That's what I would do. Don't feel you have to develop a new style just because it's illustration or you think that's going to win you more points. No, we're looking for strong foundations first. So good figure drawing, perspective. For the love of everything, please learn perspective. Okay. It's a good thing no matter, what you're making. It's a good thing to know perspective. That always is going to stand out and impress us. So yeah, I would say illustrators definitely, like illustrators probably could make whatever work that they've made through high school, and a lot of that could probably go into your portfolio, provided that you have a good foundation. Okay. Whereas, graphic design, game art, animation, these are specific industries looking for specific skills. My cat is so ready to eat. Hey, buddy, why don't you go over here? No, why don't you go over here? Because you're getting bitey and scratchy. All right. Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question about illustration. I graduated from the illustration program. I was all over the place. I wanted to do comics, fell in love with painting. I loved my typography class. I loved the sequential storytelling classes and storyboarding. I was like all over the place. So if you're undecided, or if you just want to do a little bit of everything and get like more exposure to things, then I would say illustration is a good fit. Remember though, that you're getting a sample of things, right? As an illustrator, you have to decide your focus. You're going to get a sample of character design in the illustration program. But if you know you want to design characters for Blizzard, if you know for a fact that that's your goal, you should not be in the illustration program. You should be in the game art program. Okay, so remember that. Keep the questions coming.
I have a question about game art, or I guess it's entertainment in game.
Okay.
Josephine's asking, let me try to condense this. They believe that going into entertainment design is the best focus for concept, but they want to work in games, and they worry that they won't get the correct classes in entertainment design. So what is the direction? Game art or entertainment design? But they specifically want to do concept for games.
There's a lot of companies and industries that hire concept artists today. I'm talking toy companies, animation studios, game studios. You can do character design for the MCU. You could do it for Blizzard. You could do it for Pixar, for DreamWorks. You could do character design for so many different industries and concept art as well. Okay. Entertainment design is making you a more versatile concept artist for more industries. Game art is making you a more specific concept artist for the video game platform. Remember that the video game platform is very specific and it has specific needs, okay? If you're designing a character for a video game platform, then you're designing a character that is going to be used in a very specific way. It's not an animated character like this that is giving a strong performance, that is moving the story forward through their body language and facial expressions. That's not the video game platform, right? Also, video games, it's not a passive platform. With animation, you sit back and you watch the story unfold and you don't really interact with it. A video game does not work like that. It's interactive, which means it runs on a game engine. And so if you're creating concept art for a video game platform and it's going to be used in engine, you have to prepare it a certain way and make it a certain way so that it works in the game engine, right? These are specific skills that our game art program is teaching to those concept artists. So if you know you want to work for a game studio, you should definitely be in the game art program, okay? I hope that answers it.
Sorry, we have a question about a math class. I was right about to answer it. What I will say for experience, we only have one math credit. So that's all we require here at LCAD. And animators can get out of taking that math class by taking Maya. That's an applied math in that major. So when I say that, Maya's it's a sculpting tool. It's visual, it's working on the computer. It's applied math. So you won't have to take a traditional math class. When I took a math class at LCAD, I took a class that taught me composition and perspective. So when I'm saying math, it's again applied to the artists. We're training visual artists. We're not training mathematicians or scientists or engineers. It's going to look a little bit different.
Right. My math, when we used to teach a class called financial literacy for artists. So that's like teaching you how to manage your finances as a professional artist. That was a math class that we offered for a long time. So yeah, one math class is all that's required at your time at LCAD to get your degree. Okay. Also one science class. My science class was human medical anatomy in my undergrad. And in my graduate program, it was the science of sight, which teaches you how human brains process visual information. This is work from our game art program, by the way. So here's something I want to touch on. This is all work from recent graduates of our game art program. Okay. Let me show you where these students started, okay? Because this is the work that they were making when they graduated from the program, right? Let me show you first year game art work, okay? This is fundamentals of drawing for the game art program, drawing and perspective. This is where those students start, okay? So I just want to show you what to expect, right? You don't start with the finished, super polished, highly digital work. We'll get you there, but this is building the foundation. This is about shapes and form. This is about thinking like a 3D artist, right? The software should not do the thinking for you. Okay, so yes, you're gonna learn ZBrush, you're gonna learn Maya, you're gonna learn 3ds Max, right? They're all 3D software, right? But you should know how to think in 3D without the software. And that's what we're teaching our game artists, okay? Or any artist learning 3D at LCAD, which you're gonna learn 3D in game art, in entertainment design, in animation, and in graphic design and digital media, you're gonna learn 3D. But where other schools will just say, hey, everyone that's learning 3D, come take this 3D class. That's not what LCAD does. We go, oh, you're an animator learning 3D? Okay, this is the type of 3D you need to learn. Oh, you're a graphic designer learning 3D? Okay, this is the type of 3D that you need to learn. So we get more specific so that you are better suited for your industry, and it makes you more hireable and more valuable to the top companies. And that's how LCAD students get those jobs.
I have a question that says, what's the best degree to becoming an art director? That can depend. I'll let you answer that, right?
Yeah, that's honestly, depending on your training, any of these majors could lead to art director. You know, in my experience of working with art directors and being an art director on a couple of projects, the best art directors have experience working for art directors. They can actually make the work. The best art directors, in my experience, can draw. They know fundamentals of graphic design. They know some typography. They're good at composition. They know their color theory. So if you have those skills, you can work your way to art director. I think graphic design at our school, I think graphic design is an excellent pathway to art direction.
So is animation.
Yes, we've graduated a lot of art directors from our graphic design program.
Okay, I have another question that says, does an entertainment design major still have a chance in working for games?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it does. But here's a great example. Let me go to entertainment design and let me show you. This is my favorite kind of contrast between the two majors, okay? So in entertainment design, you're going to learn 3D. Okay. You have to. It's part of the curriculum. Same thing with game art. So this is entertainment design, recent grad work. That's Todd. He's a great guy. Great teacher, great chair for entertainment design program. So in entertainment design, you're going to learn 3D. You're going to learn ZBrush probably. Okay. And you're going to do this awesome 3D sculpt. Okay. In ZBrush in entertainment design. And then once you do this, by the way, ZBrush, the file sizes are enormous on ZBrush. I mean, like millions and sometimes billions of polygons. Okay. These ZBrush sculpts are enormous files. They will, you need a good system, okay, to work with these huge files, right? And in entertainment design, once you design this cool 3D thing, you're done. That's it. Your job is done. Now, if you're working for a game studio, what do you think is going to happen to your game engine if you put this huge 3D sculpt, this huge file in your game engine? What do you think is going to happen? It's not going to work. It's going to ruin everything. It's going to crash everything. So what a game artist needs to learn is how to take that 3D sculpt from ZBrush, how to convert it to 3ds Max, right? Lower the polygon count so that now it's prepped for game engine. Entertainment designers do not need to learn how to do that. Game artists do need to learn how to do that. If you're Blizzard and you're hiring a 3D artist, which 3D artist are you going to hire? Right? So do entertainment designers work in the game industry? Yes, absolutely. But think about what your skills are best suited for. Okay. If you know you want to work for video game companies, go into the game industry. That being said, I know animators, illustrators, and entertainment designers that have all graduated from LCAD and work in the game industry. So, you know, what I'm saying is a general advice, but all three majors can produce artists that can work in the game industry. Okay. I almost worked in the game industry. The only reason I didn't is because I'm not a gamer. I don't know anything about that culture. So, you know, once I met with the art director, you know, at Blizzard, they were very clear, like, oh, you don't speak the language of this platform. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't. So they liked my art. It just wasn't a good fit because I'm not a gamer. So, but yes, we graduate illustrators, animators, and entertainment designers that work in the game industry. But your best chances of working in that industry are to be in the game art program.
Josephine, what I will say, just like Ray, to just back him up on this, if you want to go into games, you want to study the game art major. I know that you said that you don't focus in 3D, but 80% of the jobs entry level are in 3D anyway. So what LCAD's very good at doing is teaching you both. And I know, like you're saying, it's a hard thing to do to go into 3D. I didn't like sculpture. When I'm a drawing and painting student, I had to take sculpture. I was forced to take it, and it helps you with your drawing. It helps you with your concept, and it's going to help you later on. If you don't get that job as a concept artist in game right away, which doesn't always happen, by the way, because like I said, 80% of those entry-level jobs are in 3D, then it's going to be good to have that backup for 3D and then transition into that later. So the game art major is the best way to go into game. If you wanted, you can go into entertainment and end up in game, but it's going to be a lot more broad. So I'll leave that up to you, but that's my advice for you. Look into the game art program over the entertainment design program.
I will say that philosophy applies to every type of artist and every major. Okay. When I went to LCAD, I specifically wanted to be a comic book artist. That's all I had interest in. That's all I wanted to do was work for Marvel and just draw Spider-Man for the rest of my life. That was it. That was my goal. Okay. The reason I went to art school is because I didn't know how to get better. Right? I needed somebody to teach me, somebody to show me, you know, how to improve my skills. So I went to art school, and LCAD was very clear, like we're being now, very straightforward. Hey, you want to get this illustration degree and you want to be a professional level illustrator, then we will teach you how to make comic books. In order to make comic books, you need to know human anatomy and figure drawing. You need to know perspective, and you need to know composition and storytelling. we're going to teach you all those things. However, in order to earn this degree, we're also going to need you to learn painting. We're going to need you to learn typography. We're going to need you to learn digital photography. We're going to need you to learn advertising. I didn't have an interest in any of those things. I did not want to learn painting. I did not want to learn digital photography. I did not want to learn how to sculpt. Okay. But so at that moment, I could have said, you know what? I'm good. I'm just going to try to, I don't want to do all that. I'm just going to try to, learn it on my own or find another way so that I can avoid those things. I don't think that's the best way to go about learning, is to say, okay, what do I want to avoid? What do I not want to do? Especially when you're young and you're an amateur artist still, I think it pays off to have a much more broad, accepting mindset to say, hey, I don't even know what I don't know. So if somebody that is a professional that I trust is telling me that I need to know this thing, then I'm gonna trust them, and I'm going to say, okay, I need to learn that because that's what they're telling me I need to learn. And, did I end up using every single thing that I learned in the illustration program? No, but I can tell you 100% with no doubt, I am way better off for having done all of that and gone through all those classes than I was before, than I would be without. And look, I'm a painter now. At 18 years old, when all I wanted to do was draw Spider-Man, I had no idea that I was going to be a painter someday, right? I had no idea. That was not even on my radar at the time. So imagine if I had avoided learning painting, what would I be doing now? So you don't always know when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, what you're going to want to do creatively and artistically later in your career. So keep an open mindset. I know you don't want to do 3D. Most students that want to work in games do not want to do 3D. So many of them benefit from it. And that's why we're partnered with Blizzard. That's why we're partnered with Riot, with Rockstar, with PlayStation. That's why these companies are partnered with LCAD, because we're producing the type of artists that they are looking to hire. Okay. So try to keep an open mindset.
Ray, I have a question. I love this question. So it says, what are the odds of getting a scholarship from your portfolio, and does the acceptance rate change based on the major you choose?
So the odds of getting a scholarship for your portfolio are, I would say, 100%. Every single student who gets accepted to LCAD gets a scholarship automatically. Just by applying to the school, you're applying for the scholarship. So if you get accepted to our school, you are getting a scholarship, and it is based on your portfolio. So this is why we put so much stress on, hey, the better your portfolio, the bigger your scholarship. So work on it. Yeah, you're definitely getting a scholarship for your portfolio if you get accepted. Now in terms of acceptance rates, yeah, some majors are more competitive to get into than others, and it changes every year. Every year there's different majors that are harder, quote unquote, harder to get into. And it's just because the level of skill in the portfolios changes. Right now, I would say probably, Sureya, what do you think? I would say entertainment design and game art probably are the most competitive to get into.
Yes. Specifically, I would say game. Well, entertainment design is up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Both of those.
Look at how cool that sword is. Anyway, yeah. So entertainment design and game art right now are the most challenging to get into. But remember, LCAD does not have limits. We don't have our majors never fill up. Okay. We accept whoever is good enough to be accepted whenever you apply. So don't worry, don't stress about like, oh no, I need to apply soon because it's going to fill up and I'm not going to be able to get in. That's not true. We have rolling admissions, okay? So you don't have to worry about that. Just worry on making the best portfolio that you can make.
Okay, I have a question, or actually, Naima. Am I saying your name right? Naima? Naima?
Yeah, you said it right.
Okay, go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, yeah. So I've always been interested in doing art stuff like character designing, storyboard, concept art. I think I like it so much. That's why I'm applying for the animation degree in the school. However, would you say that the chances of the classes starting with like, should you have a basic idea on how animation works in general? Like, if you're just interested in wanting to learn it, should you practice before going into the classes? Like, do you need to do animation off the bat? Or would you say that it kind of teaches you from the bottom up?
We are going to teach you from the ground up. Okay. We are going your first semester at LCAD. You're going to take your fundamentals classes. We are going to show you from the ground up. Now, that being said, you know, anything that you love to do, you're probably going to do it on a fairly regular basis. And be based on that, you're probably going to earn some skill, right? If I love to play basketball and I play basketball, you know, most days, then I'm not going to be horrible. I'm not going to be great, but I'm going to know my way, you know, around a basketball game, right? So we're not expecting you to be amazing. We're here to make you amazing, okay? But we do expect you to have some understanding. The reason why we start you from scratch is because we are filling in the gaps in your knowledge. Just because you know something doesn't mean that you have all the foundational skills that are required, okay? So understand that, right? So that means that, you know, you may know some things about animation, but maybe there's like a crucial first step that you don't know. We're going to start everyone from square one so that everyone has all of the knowledge that they need to progress forward, okay? But in terms of the portfolio, focus on the things that we're asking for. Once you're in the program, we're going to start you from square one, and you're going to be learning from long-time Disney animators, you know, industry professionals, VFX artists, people that have worked on major projects. You know, in experimental animation, Glenn Miller, the chair of the program, worked on VFX for Titanic and for Jurassic Park and stuff. And, you know, on the animation, in the animation program, the co-chairs, Brad Kua and Eric Walls, they worked on Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, you know, all of those, like Lion King, all of those projects.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let me get you another question.
I just love good drawings of hands and feet. They're so hard to do.
Sorry, guys. We have a question from Emily saying, what would you consider not good enough?
That's tough to say because, you know, we do consider a broad range of skill sets. We're definitely looking for the basics first. Okay. So no matter what, we're looking for the basics first. That means, you know, how much do you draw, right? Like, can you take a good photograph? If you can take a decent photograph, then you're probably going to be able to build a portfolio that will get you accepted to graphic design and digital media. Now, does that mean it only takes some photos to get in? No. But if you have the skills to take a decent photograph and you work hard, you're willing to put in the work, you should be able to build an acceptable portfolio for graphic design and digital media. Now, let's say, you know, you don't know everything about drawing. You're not good enough to draw characters from your imagination. Guess what? That's one of the hardest things to do is draw characters from your imagination. Any artist at any level is going to struggle with that. So don't assume that you're not good enough, you know? If you can go somewhere, look at this drawing that's on the screen. If you can go somewhere and sit down and just with a pencil or a pen or a marker, just sketch what's around you. If you have this, if you can do this, you probably will be able to get accepted to LCAD. You just need to put in the work to build your portfolio, right? But I mean, look at this. This is not polished. There's no, you know, straight lines. There's no fancy digital brushes on this or anything like that. But it's a decent drawing. Like, I really like this drawing, actually. So if you love to make art, go somewhere and sit down and start drawing what you see around you. I call this low stakes drawing, right? You're not trying to make every line perfect. How many of us have started a drawing in our sketchbook, and as we go, we like it so much that we get more and more nervous as we go because we're drawing and you like your drawing, and then at a certain point you're like, oh, I don't want to mess this up now. Like, oh no, you know, like you almost want to stop drawing at a certain point just to like leave it as it is. That's very high stakes. That feels high stakes to me. I want low stakes drawing. I want you to just do something like this. If there's an errant line somewhere, like let's zoom in here. some of these lines, you know, you can tell they were like, oh, not quite sure. But do these lines ruin this drawing? No, they don't. So because it's a low stakes drawing, right? Let's practice more of this. There's a great artist on TikTok. What's his name? Is it Easton? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Paul Heaston.
Paul Heaston, thank you. Paul Heaston TikTok, not Paul Mescal, the actor. And Paul Heaston does this all the time. Now, this guy's a pro, okay? But he literally just goes places and just sits down and just starts drawing whatever is in front of him. If you are going into a drawing major, this is the best thing you can do. Just go and sit down somewhere and just start drawing, okay? Like, I like this one. Look at how he starts. You know, this looks great at the end, right? But look at how he starts. Pencil, right? He's not making perfect lines. He's not putting a ton of pressure on himself to not mess up right away. He's not starting with the details of the grill or the tracks on the tire, or no, he's not doing that. He's just doing the basics. He's just working on proportion. How big is the window? How tall are the tires compared to the rest of the truck? How wide is the bumper? He's still figuring that out. If he gets something wrong, he can easily fix it at this point. This is all just basic proportions. This is what I call low stakes drawing. Just do this over and over and over and over again. Once he has the proportions to his liking, then he switches to ink and he starts to make a higher stakes, more impressive drawing. You don't ever have to do that. Seriously, if you're a concept artist, you should just be doing this level of drawing over and over and over again, okay? You'll see he switches to a pen and he starts putting in all the cool details that make everyone so impressed with his art. But look at, you could stop at that point. Let me take it back. You could stop right there. That's it. You're done. There's your sketch for your portfolio. Move on to the next one. Right? Now, it took this guy what? A minute and 13 seconds. It's probably going to take you 10, 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes to get to this point. Do that. Do that 4 times a day. That's 2 hours of drawing. If it takes you 30 minutes to do this and you do it 4 times a day, that's 2 hours of drawing a day to do this, right? Get those proportions right. So if you can do that, you can make a portfolio that will get you accepted to LCAD, okay? Paul Heaston, great account to follow on TikTok.
Ray, I have a question that says, so would you say our sketchy pieces for portfolios would be better rather than detailed, polished work, or would it be a mix? Would a mix be better?
A mix, but more of the sketchy pieces than the polished pieces, okay? So maybe not a 50-50 mix, maybe like a 70-30 mix, okay? More of the sketchy, unpolished stuff. Why? Because that shows us your true colors as an artist. That shows us what you can really do. A lot of young artists rely on digital tools to cover up their mistakes or to cover up the limitations of their skill, right? We want to see where your skills are at. So definitely more of the sketchy stuff. Also, the sketchy stuff usually doesn't take as long. Do you ever finish a good sketch and then you're like, oh, now I got to finish it? And it's like at that point, it just feels like a job, right? Because all of that rendering, all of that like light logic and shadows and highlights, some of that stuff can get boring after a while, right? So don't spend so much time on that stuff. If you have a few polished pieces for your portfolio, that's great, but spend most of your time on the sketchy stuff. And that goes for all majors, by the way, you know, not just you know, animation or concept art. If we look at graphic design and digital media, you know, show us your page layout. Show us how you're thinking about composing your flyers. Show us how you work on a logo from start to finish. It can be sketchy. It can be in pencil. Okay. It doesn't all have to be super detailed, finished digital art. They're good questions. All right. We've been going for about an hour, over an hour. Any more questions, Sureya? We want to start wrapping up maybe in the next 10 minutes or so.
My apologies. I'm like answering questions like while I'm talking with you. Okay.
Oh, good. Good.
Let me find some for you. So someone's asking, how do you contact the registration office? Can you elaborate on that? Do you mean a registrar's department? Because that would happen after acceptance.
Yeah, once you get accepted, the registrar will actually contact you.
Oh, Jason answered that. Sorry about that. Jason answered that one.
Is Jason in here?
Jason's in here.
Oh, what's up, Jason?
Okay, so
What's up,
Emily
dude?
asked if my portfolio is completely digital, do I have less of a chance of getting it?
No, not at all. If your portfolio is completely digital, that's okay. But what we're more concerned with is not the tool that you used, but how you use the tool. Okay. So let me go into like life drawing. You know, here we go. Here's a good example. Here we have some pen at the top. This is pen and ink at the very top. Down here, this is digital. These are both digital. And then down here, we have graphite. This is pencil, right? But it's all used in a very similar way. It's all loose. It's all sketchy. The lines are very fluid, right? So this is what we're looking for. This very fluid approach, this sketchy approach where you're drawing through the form. Don't just do an outline. If you just do an outline, that's going to feel like you traced it, whether it's traditional or digital. So really, we're more interested in how you're using the tool, okay? We do think that if you're drawing with digital tools, we want you to think of it as if it's traditional. Okay, so that might be, you know, in that case, it might be better to just say, oh, I'll just do it traditional. But it can be all digital as long as you're using it in the right way. Let me show you another example of a digital work that is being handled in the way that we prefer. This is a student that I worked with that got accepted to illustration and then wanted to switch to game art. So these are all digital drawings, but look at how she's sketching this out. Look at how she's still showing her thinking lines. Like I think this is beautiful digital drawing here. She's using a brush that is meant to mimic a traditional feel. And you can see how none of this, even this stuff that is color, look at how it's still kind of raw, right? If you really zoom in, you start to see that it's not super polished. And that's good. That's what we want. Okay. Try to avoid doing a finished layer, a cleanup layer, a clean line layer. Okay. Try to avoid that. Just let your drawings come through. Let your drawing skill or your sketchy layer come through. Okay. I wish I had some examples of what not to do, but I don't want to put anyone on blast like that.
Someone has a question about backgrounds. They said that they've always seen everyone else use their backgrounds with pens with white and black. And if they have for some digital art, should I change the colors to black and white or something like grays and black better? I'm confused by this question. Can you elaborate on that, Naima?
If I can guess at what they're trying to get to, there are no rules, first of all. I do think that there are things you can do for clarity. I think they're talking about contrast and about having the background read more as a background. Right? If that's what I
You want me to elaborate really quick?
Yeah,
yes,
sure.
please.
Yeah, I'm
Please
so
do.
sorry.
No
I
worries.
have like it's not like an eye strain problem. I usually find like more light gray colors to like help me focus on my lines better. I feel like when I'm using a different pen color, I can see the sketches or the lines a lot more clearly when it's not just a blasting white in my face. But I've always seen in other works, a lot of people kind of just use the normal white background and then the normal black colors. So should I just start getting used to seeing that? Because I know in most animation or just in art in general, you're gonna be focused on a really big white screen and black. So should I just get more comfortable with that, or can I send in pieces where maybe it's more of a light purple background, but it has the black inking, or maybe a darker purple to match it? Would that be too much?
I understand your question now. Thank you for explaining that better. There's no rules, okay? I would say the most important thing is clarity. This drawing is on a yellow background, right? This sketch of a storytelling image is on a toned kind of gray background, right? As long as we can tell what's going on. You know, sometimes we have students using bright colors and, you know, using like funky, like fluorescent, you know, ink to like draw stuff. And it just makes it harder for us to read the drawing. So as long as we can read it, there are not too many rules about that. Okay. I will say this. And I'm not saying that you're gonna do this, but some students they'll try to make their figure drawing page more interesting. Like, or their character design page. Like they'll try to do something because they feel like, maybe a page like this is kind of boring. Mind you, this is not white background. This is like a light gray. Same thing with this. It's like a light gray. But they're like, oh, this is not artistic enough. This is not creative enough. Let me put some pink in there. Or let me put some purple. Don't worry about that. The goal of a drawing like this is not to show off your creativity. It's to show off your skills, right? There are going to be other pages in your portfolio where you can show us how creative and artistic you are. But some pages in your portfolio are literally just to show your foundations and to show your skills. So don't feel pressure to make your pages super, artistic and creative across the board. Let me go into a character design page and I'll show you what I mean. Like, um, someone might say, I need a better background, or like someone might say, like, oh, what if I put some textures back here? Or what if I put the logo of, this story really big in the back? Or what if I put, a crazy yellow outline across every drawing? You don't need to do that. The point of this is to show us your character design. So just try to, don't put anything in the way of us seeing your character design. Okay. But aside from that, no rules. If you prefer to draw on a colored background, that's totally fine as long as we can see your drawings.
I have
Okay,
a
thank you
great
so much.
question
So
for-
sorry for
Oh.
the confusion.
Oh,
Oh,
look
I'm
at
so
this.
sorry.
No,
Look at
Naima,
this
that was
guy.
my fault. Sorry
I'm
about
so
that.
sorry.
This is Xander Kelvin. This is a student that I was a counselor for a few years ago that got accepted to our experimental animation program. These are digital, right? But look at how Xander's drawing through the form, keeping everything sketchy, right? No fancy brushes, and it's in color. It's pink on yellow, but it's still very clear. Xander made sure that there was enough contrast with the drawing line that we could easily read his drawings. So this is a good example of what I'm talking about.
Ray, if you can, I have a great question from Ollie.
All right.
It says, is it okay to draw from memory, or do you really push for figure sketching in public?
Oh yeah, really push for figure sketching. Nothing against drawing from memory,
Yeah.
but that is step 10. I would not advise it for step 1 or 2 or 7. Okay. Remember that the hardest thing to do, I think, is to draw believable figures out of your imagination. I think that's the hardest thing to do. It's probably not a good idea to start there. And if that's all you do, you probably are lacking some fundamentals. You cannot pull it out of your brain or your imagination if you don't first put it in there through observational drawing. And this is where discipline comes into play, okay? Early in life, those of us that want to be artists, we all spent a lot of time drawing and creating and making art because it felt creative and it felt free, right? And we've decided at some point that we want to turn this into our profession. We want to spend our lives and our careers making art professionally. Once you make that decision, now your art making process doesn't become solely about freedom. It becomes about discipline, because now you are making art that you want to be hired to make, and the people that are hiring you, whether it's a private client or commission, or whether it's a company like Blizzard or like Pixar, they have expectations that they need you to meet. So now it's about training and discipline. I grew up playing basketball. I loved playing basketball, but I never was on the basketball team. I never was part of a league. You know why? Because I hated that structure. I didn't want to go to practice. I didn't want to run laps and, do drill. That was boring to me. I just wanted to play basketball. So that was fine. I could just go to a park and just play basketball with my friends or, strangers or whoever, right? If I had decided that I wanted to be a professional basketball player, that's when the discipline comes in. That's when it's like, okay, I have to eat right. I have to lift weights. I have to learn proper form. I have to practice. you know, and that's what being a professional something is. It's about that discipline, especially when you're in school training. So that's what I would say to that. If you are only accustomed so far to drawing from your imagination, that's fine, but you're getting ready to go to school. You're getting ready to be trained by professionals in order to be a professional yourself. Your mindset now needs to change to one of discipline and training and practice. And so don't be afraid to fail. You're going to art school so that you can be in class trying new things with the guidance of a professional. And when you fail in class, that means you're learning, okay? That means that your teacher's going to be there to help you get better. And if you're not struggling, you're probably not learning, okay? I love Xander's work. All right, we're going to wrap up soon. Can we get like 1 or 2 more questions, or is that it?
Our questions are slowing down. Jason's doing a good job of answering some of them. I've answered some of them, and then while you're talking. So does anyone else have any pressing questions before we conclude this?
We're gonna do this again in a month, okay? So
and you can always contact your admissions counselor too.
Yes.
So we can have a one-on-one with you guys.
Yes, but we are going to be doing this again in January.
Yes.
It's going to be 2 other counselors doing this. I might pop in to help as well. We're going to do this again in February. We're going to do this again in March. We're going to do this again. So this is something we're going to do every month. And then we're going to do our best to post it afterwards so that you can rewatch this. You can, you know, if you missed it, you can watch it after the fact. It looks like we do have somebody with their hand up, their hand raised.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Marley has a question. Go ahead, Marley.
Hi. So one of my art teachers at school brought up that it's important to keep track of your like reference image, like citations for portfolio reasons. Well, is that important for LCAD, or is it just like, I don't know. I just want to make sure.
I don't think it's that important. You know, if you're using reference correctly, then it's really just a jumping off point, you know, like sometimes like if you're making concept art, like I'll show you here. Oh, I don't know if I have any examples like that. Let me see if I do. If you're making concept art, let's look at VizDev. Oh, here we go. So here's some reference imagery, okay? This concept artist, again, somebody that I worked with, Maury, that I worked with to get accepted to LCAD entertainment design a few years ago. If you look at this, they're trying to come up with a design that is half gun, half scanner, okay? And they did their research. Here's their reference. They have guns on one side, they have scanners on the other. So they're showing that, right? So for the purposes of this, I think, yeah, you can show your reference here. The reference is not the point of this page. The point is the concept. So here they're working on their concepts. On one side, these are too much like guns. On this side, these are too much like scanners. And then here, whoops, here at the bottom, they have their design that they feel is a good balance between the two. It's very evident the thought that they put into this design, right? And they're showing us their reference to show like, hey, I did my research. I'm not just assuming I know what a gun looks like. I'm actually researching it to see from reference what it looks like. In the case of a page like this for concept artists, yeah, you know, track some of this reference that you're looking at and include it in your page. But if you're talking about figure drawing, life drawing, painting, no, we don't need to or really want to see those references. We're looking for how the reference helps you make your art. We want to see that your artwork is showing off that you're using reference material. Okay. But I've even told students, never put your if you're doing a portrait or something, never put your photo reference in your portfolio. Just don't do that because it really doesn't help in any way. It can only hurt you. So don't even worry about that. Okay.
We are 33 minutes after the time that we allotted. So
Whoa.
I'm going to ask one last question. So, okay. And then we're going to conclude it there. If you guys have any other questions, please reach out to us. We love chatting with you guys. We'll do one-on-ones, like I said, with you guys as well. So don't think we're ignoring you.
Yeah, this is a favorite part of our job, honestly.
Yes, we love this part.
Students talking about art, we're all art nerds here. So this is great.
Okay, so the last question is from Kay. I hope I'm saying that right. If I'm not, please correct me. It says, the question says, how's the portfolio process for transfer? I saw you need to add stuff from classes you take. How different is it? How different is it to as if you were applying for the first time? So what's the difference between a transfer portfolio and an admissions portfolio?
The main difference is that a transfer portfolio comes way later. You don't have to worry about a transfer portfolio when you're applying to LCAD. Just make your portfolio to get accepted, okay? And then once you're accepted, your counselor will help you with your transfer portfolio. But at that point, it's more like, oh, okay, you took 2D design and drawing at a community college, then we want to see some images of 2D design and some images of drawing to see if you can skip our classes, right? But that comes later, and you can reuse some of the images from your application portfolio. You absolutely can reuse stuff from there. But really, for the purposes of applying to the school, you don't have to worry about that stuff. Just make a good application portfolio for your major, get accepted, and then we'll help you with your transfer process. We actually have a transfer specialist, Nick. He's amazing, and he will help. My cats are starting to like get rambunctious because it's almost.
My cat's screaming at me.
I don't
on the
hear
other
your
side of the
cat
door.
screaming.
No, she's on the other side of the door.
Okay. We're all cat people. Most of us. Sorry, Pierre. That's Jason's dog.
Jocelyn, I like your cat.
Oh yeah, cat bump. We got cats in the chat. That's great. All right. If that's it, then I'm gonna wrap things up now. An hour and a half. That's pretty good. We really appreciate you all coming through, asking your questions. Really hope that this has been helpful. Reach out to us. Let us know if there's something that you wanted covered that we didn't. Let us know, because we will definitely cover it in the next one. Okay. If you want to see more examples, let us know. If you want to see more classwork, let us know. If you want to see more alumni work, let us know, and we're going to provide it for you. Okay. But thank you, everyone. Keep working on your portfolios. Try not to stress out too much. Take care of yourselves. Definitely rest. I know a holiday break is coming up soon for all of us. So we'll get to spend a lot of time drawing or whatnot, and reach out to your counselor for more help. Okay. But thank you so much. I'm going to get ready to have dinner over here.
Please reach out to us, guys. It was good to talk with you guys. Have a good rest of your night.
Bye.